health social worker from the Bayview neighborhood of San Francisco, one of the city's last Black working class communities. He works every single day with people who are being crushed by the same system that he is running to change. Unaffordable housing, for-profit healthcare system, and an economy that is rigged for billionaires. As the Peace and Freedom Party's candidate for governor in the June 2026 primary, Ramsey is running on a bold working class platform. Guaranteed affordable housing, taxing the rich, $30 $30 an hour union jobs, single-payer healthcare for all Californians. And he's not asking the billionaires for permission. He's building the kind of movement that scares them, that brings hundreds of people into the room with one cause, and that is liberation for all people. Am I right? Please help me welcome the working people's governor of California and my governor, Ramsey Robinson.
Well, yes, my name is Ramsey Robinson, and I am the Peace and Freedom Party candidate for governor of California. And I'm also, as DeSantis said, a mental health social worker in Bayview, Hunters Point. It is one of the last Black and brown neighborhoods and communities in San Francisco where I live. And I earned my credentials on the front lines of the mental health crisis, on the housing crisis, on the war that we see on our Black and brown communities. So when I got that degree for social work, I didn't go to law school. I did not go to Wall Street. I went to work with the people most hurt by this system we live under, and that is why I am running for governor of California. I'm running for governor of California because if the same is true, that you are what you repeatedly do, Socrates said that, then what I've done since I was 15 years old is be a worker. And not just a worker like so many of us in this room today and the 40 million of us in California, I have been a worker in crisis. Y'all know what it is. When we talk about the challenges that we folk face, the fact that over 1 million of us are behind in rent, the fact that tens of thousands of us are facing eviction, that 2.5 million of us in this state don't have health insurance, that $7 billion, that's billion with a B, of wage theft is stolen from us folks right here in this room and all across California. I was never on the outside looking in on that. That has been my life too. California is so unaffordable that my 20 years in LA, there were years that I had to decide, am I going to pay for health insurance this month or am I going to pay for rent? And I'm telling y'all, there were many months that I had to keep a roof over my head and did not have health insurance. I know I'm not alone in that. There were times, it sounds dramatic, I lived on Hoover and Adams. There were times that I could not afford a cup of coffee. There were times that just because California is so unaffordable, I had to make deep sacrifices just to stay in the state. If you can imagine, I'm from the East Coast, we got basements out there. Some of y'all have them out there. Living in a basement, no ventilation, no showers. That was my reality for years. It's either that or linking up with coworkers, 5 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment. I did that as well. So this is real for all of us here, and this is why we need the change that we're talking about here in California. And right at that breaking point, right when I started to feel like I can't take this anymore, I'm in my 30s, I'm working full time, I'm living hand to mouth. Right when I was about to break, something happened. And that's a response. And there's always a response from people like us when we face this cruel and inhumane system. It always happens. It's like a law of physics. Whenever there is oppression, it breeds resistance. And I can start to feel that resistance build up inside of me. I can start to feel that fight rise inside of me. And right when I reached my breaking point, something very, very amazing and special happened to me. Something that changed the course of my life. And I found organizing. Say that after that. I found a party of organizers, and that was specifically the Party for Socialism and Liberation. So can we clap for Party for Socialism and Liberation? Yes. Yes. Humbly, I had never been out in the streets of the protest. But in the summer of 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, I said, I have to get out there in the streets. And I started to come close to the PSL, and they were in the streets. That's right. And I'll never forget Hollywood Boulevard that summer, packed with organizers, packed with all kinds of folks, shutting it down. The police could not touch us. The sheriffs could not touch us. And like so many of us in this room, all across the nation, 36 million of us got out in the streets for 6 weeks demanding justice for George Floyd. And did we get it? We got it. Because where is Derek Chauvin right now? As we come together in this room, where is he right now? Where's Derek Chauvin, the murderer of George Floyd? He is in prison where he belongs. That is showing the power of organizing. I said, okay, I'm starting to see what this organizing is about. I'm starting to feel the power. And it's never stopped after that. I moved up in the Bay Area a couple years ago from Los Angeles, and when Banco Brown, a trans brother, was murdered for the crime, heavy air quotes on crime, the crime of being hungry, the PSL was out in the streets. And we mobilized hundreds of people to not only put pressure on Brooke Jenkins, the DA, and say, okay, you're saying this and that about Banco Brown, let's see, release the footage. And we got that footage released. And do you think Banco Brown was innocent or guilty? Innocent. And not only that, and this is the power of organizing with a party, that we were also able to message in a state that has a $4 trillion economy, no one should ever go hungry.
Right.
So now I am a mental health social worker, and I love my jobs. And I work with 14 to 18-year-olds, and I'm in a room one-on-one, and we're talking about and healing from our traumas, our anxiety, our depression, our grief and loss. And it's amazing work, and I'm so glad I found it. And it was very hard to go back to school at age 40 to get that degree, but that's another lecture. But I started to realize I'm in my 4th year right now, and I start to see, oh, wow. The problems, the vast majority of the problems that the kids that I work face are because of the crises that are created because of the system that we live under outside the therapeutic setting. And I started to see that it's these billionaires that we're talking about, that the system that they uphold. And when we do bring socialism about, when we do have guaranteed housing and health care and mental health and a dignified retirement and guaranteed union jobs at $30 per hour for these children, then mental health will go down so much. Now, we're still going to have anxiety. We're still going to have depression under socialism, sure. But it is drastically going to shape the landscape of mental health when we bring socialism about, and that's what the PFP and that's what the PSL is doing today. Today. But it was as a worker that started preparing me for running for governor. And I'll never forget, I was deemed an essential worker, right, when COVID hit. And I had to be out there, I was in a very dangerous environment. And the orders where I worked at, they shot through the roof. If you can imagine showing up on Monday and your workload tripling, right now I see about 20 kids on my caseload. Can you imagine going that up to 60 kids a week? So that's not what I was doing then, but if you can imagine about we get a lot of people here, so just maybe the first few pews here, right? We're in there and we are humping it, y'all. We're getting ground down, working 3 times as hard as we ever have before. And I will never forget, the owner came out and she had a big old smile on her face and she was clapping, probably because she had all of our money in her pocket. And she said, thank you so much for all the hard work that y'all are doing to compensate you. Here's a pizza. A pizza. It is funny, but that was a very significant moment in my life because I started to see, oh wow, this is not by accident. We live in a rigged system. That we are broken off just a big enough crumb to come back to work the next day. Just a big enough crumb to work. And meanwhile, everything that we produce, all the wealth that we create, goes to just a few people on the top. And that is why I am running with the Peace and Freedom Party, because we are out to challenge that system. That system is called capitalism, and that system wants to touch everything, and everything it desecrates, it just turns to stone. It's like the reverse of the Midas touch. Y'all know Midas? Everything he touched turned to gold. Capitalism is the opposite. Everything around us, education, housing, healthcare, love, entertainment, it touches and it desecrates. And the Peace and Freedom Party is about redeeming that and about bringing about a society where we have these things that are undesecrated, that we have housing, healthcare, education, a dignified retirement for all of us, not just a few billionaires. Y'all with that? Right. One of the things that I am most proud about with this campaign is from the jump, we said that we want to go and spread this message in the most oppressed communities, right? And we have done that. Where are we today? Oakland. Like Pastor Ken was saying, you know what's going down in Oakland. Where have we gone and knocked on doors? And we've knocked on 30,000 doors in just the last 2 months. Where are we going? Bayview in my backyard. Emerald Hills in San Diego. West Fresno, where the life expectancy is 20 years lower than the folks right next door in Fresno. This is where we are going and bringing our message to black and brown people and everybody all over the state, and we are so proud of it. And I'm often asked, okay, when y'all talk about the war in Black America, the war in our brown communities, what is the PFP practically going to do about it? And I want to talk about that today. So, before we get into the details, I just want to step back and just define a couple terms for us. Y'all down with that? Okay. The first one is power. It's on the graphic for today, right? Power. Well, Professor Naha Bidian, when I went back to school for social work, wrote on the whiteboard, she said, power is this. It is the ability to accomplish goals. The ability to accomplish goals. That's power. And it's important that we define this because our quest for power is completely opposite than the billionaires. The billionaires' quest for power, the goals that they want to accomplish, is putting money, greed, profit over everything, even to the detriment of us, even to the detriment of our planet. And we want the opposite. We actually want liberation from that system. Is that right? Okay. All right. So let's define what liberation is, right? You hear that word a lot. Well, the Peace and Freedom Party and the Party for Socialism and Liberation defines liberation as this: socialism. I want y'all to think about liberation and then see equal signs, socialism. Because I don't know about y'all, but if you want to imagine for a second, if everybody in this room, if everybody in our families, our mamas, our daddies, our cousins, our aunties, right, our co-workers, our neighbors, if we all had political and economic power, if we all use that economic and political power to plan the economy, to use that wealth, to make sure that we have everything we need, not just to survive, but to thrive, I feel like that's liberation. Does that sound like liberation to y'all? Yes. So the Peace and Freedom Party is about power. We're a movement to get power and use that power for liberation. And so now I want to get a little more detailed and talk about exactly what the Peace and Freedom Party is going to do to get that. Right. And so we hear, hey, what is the Peace and Freedom Party? Are you, Ramsey Robinson, when you're governor, what are you going to do about the fact that, as was mentioned by Costanza, black folk, we make up 7% of the state population, but 30% of the homelessness population. That we have double the unemployment. That we have 1/10 of the household wealth that white families have. Yeah. What are you going to do about the fact that black and brown people are disproportionately put in prison and forced to work for as low as 8 cents to 38 cents an hour? What are y'all going to do about that? What are you going to do about our brown communities? That even though they are 1.8 million undocumented workers in this state, they create $8.5 billion of wealth. Yet, we're in supposedly a sanctuary state where we are having our brown communities ripped apart. And let's not forget, they're not just ripping apart brown families. They're not killing brown people. They're killing black people too. Keith Porter Jr. saved his name. Renee Nicole Good died defending black communities, right? How are we going to do this? Well, this is how. For black folk, us in California, it's no mystery. Again, there's a reason that we have 1/10 of household wealth as our white counterparts, and that is because of centuries of unpaid labor, centuries of slavery. So the first thing we are going to do for economic empowerment is reparations and cash, direct cash reparations, not playing around. We are also talking about political power. And with our State Department of Anti-Discrimination, folk from oppressed communities, black communities, brown communities, our LGBTQ communities, they are not going to be appointed by the governor. They're going to be elected from their own communities to have real political power. What I'm talking about is the power to read, rewrite, revise, or completely veto any racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic law that tries to float through California. We are going to be able to say, no, that's not the California that we're building. For our brown community, right? California claims to be a sanctuary state. We are not. We know that state and local agencies are colluding with ICE, and we are going to ban any state and local agency, including hospitals, including schools, from working with ICE. We can do that. And we will prosecute and decertify any officer that is found guilty of breaking that law. And with that tax from the billionaires, we will fully fund a massive multilingual know your rights training all throughout every county in the state of California. Y'all with that? Come on. Yes, and for both of our black communities and for all of us, community control over the police. Okay? What does that look like? That we are going to control the budget. We will demilitarize the police. No excuse if they're running around with the Army's hand-me-downs. This is unacceptable. So this is what we're going to do to make sure that we have that economic and political power, so we have everything that we deserve. Y'all with that? And I gotta tell y'all, there is no excuse that we can't have this California. On the one hand, California leads the nation in wealth. This is a California with 194 billionaires sitting on $1.2 trillion. However, on the other side, California also leads the nation in two categories: poverty, highest rates of poverty, and unemployment. So this is a California where 7 million of us struggle to keep a roof over our head, struggle to feed our babies. And we have to ask, why is that? How is that? In the richest state in the nation, in the fourth largest economy in the world, how is it that so many of us are suffering? And that is because there's really two Californias, y'all. There's the one California where 40 million of us, we create all that wealth. We create the $4 trillion economy. We make California the largest economy in the world, but yet we are shut out of where that wealth is being used. We do that. We can clap for that because we make that money. This is a California where 2 out of every 10 of us in this room, all throughout the state, are poor. And then we have the other California, the one run by the billionaires, right? Who do nothing for that money that they are sitting on. Matter of fact, they spend $540 million just last year to pay off, we call it bribing, you could say lobbying, to pay off the Democrats and the Republicans to make sure that that doesn't get taxed. And they sit back and they call all the shots. of the most essential aspects of us being a human being: housing, healthcare, employment. So I am running for governor of California because I, with all of us together, are fighting for one California where the government and the wealth that we create goes to serving our needs and not just the billionaires. Y'all down with that? One California where housing is a human right. One California where our health is prioritized over profit. One California where losing our job doesn't mean that we lose everything. Everything. Because when we come to the Democrats who've had the supermajority in the House and the Senate for decades, and we say, hey, what about us? We put you in power. What about housing? What about healthcare? They say, we can't afford that. Right now, just this afternoon, we know that that is a lie. 194 billionaires sitting on $1.2 trillion, but then the deal that they try to cut us is that you generate all that wealth, and thank you very much, we'll take that, and you be happy with the status quo. I think I know the answer to this. Are we happy with the status quo? No. We're not. Because we know that it's not an accident that half of California lives paycheck to paycheck. We know it's not an accident that in the last 3 years our rent has gone up 30%. We know it's not an accident that just the UC system alone has $32 billion with a B invested in a genocide. This is not an accident, and we are done with those political choices that they're making in power. And we're realizing now that when we get together like we are in this room, there's nothing that we can't do. As a matter of fact, when we start organizing like this in the millions, that's when the billionaires get scared. So I want to talk about 2 ways that we can fight back. Because there's also a way besides the ballot box. So we are encouraging you, yes, go to RamseyForGov.com. Yes, register Peace and Freedom Party. Yes, join our more than 7,000 volunteers that are going all up and down California right now, spreading this message for California for the people and not the billionaires. Yes, and we ain't going anywhere. But also there's another way we can fight, and this is really important that we talk about this now. Because so many of the gains that we have gotten have not come from the ballot box. They have come through organizing. I want to give 3 modern day examples and then 1 historical example, and I'll wrap up. Y'all down? Y'all with me? Okay. The first one that I want to talk about happened just this year. And if you have heard of the United Educators of San Francisco, and I sure did that one, keep up that noise. Yes. They planned and strategized for 5 years. In good faith, they sat down and they bargained for 11 months. And what do you think Daniel Lewis said when he came into the bargaining table and said, can you slow things down because, we just can't afford that? They said, I don't think you understand here. You were completely unprepared and we were going on strike. And that happened. And there are 6,500 educators in San Francisco in the union, but day 1, there were 10,000 people out in the streets. Day 2, 15,000. Day 3, 20,000. I'm a social worker, not a mathematician, but I can do that math. A lot more than educators came out into the streets. It was the parents, it was the students that came out. It was workers of every stripe that supported that. And did they win? Yes. They won. Come on. They didn't wait for the politicians. Example 2. Los Angeles Unified School District, the most oppressed workers, the bus drivers, the custodians, the janitorial staff, right? They went to the district and they said, look, you have to pay us more. We can't afford to live in the city that we work in. And what did the district say? We can't afford that. Oh, word? SEIU went on strike, 30,000 went on strike in coordination with the educators, and all of a sudden, whoop, $5 billion just popped up out the couches. That is a result of showing the power of organizing, and they did not wait for the politicians. They did not do it through the ballot box. Last example. I like this one. Governor Gavin Newsom. Boo. This dude said he vetoed right on his desk, he vetoed a bill that would have made it easier for us working people to organize, right? He just crossed it out. Meanwhile, behind the back, he just bought a $14 million vineyard. The bill came up again. In politics, bill came up again. He said, guess what? I'm going to veto it again. The United Farm Workers said, word? Okay. And they marched 335 miles in triple-digit heat right to Gavin Newsom's doorstep. And they camped out and they put that pressure on him. And do you think that man signed that bill then? He did. He signed it. They didn't wait for the electoral arena to do it. They put that pressure on them. And that's the power of organizing their power. Okay. So I want to use a historical example to really show the power of both the ballot box and us getting together in a party like the Peace and Freedom Party, like the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And this was over 100 years ago, and this was during the days of slavery. And folk just like us saw, and some of our ancestors were experiencing the cruelty, the inhumanity of this system, right? And they said, we have to do something about this. And they got together and they said, the two-party system that is in place right now, they ain't doing anything. They didn't talk like that. They ain't doing anything, but you know what I'm saying. And they got together and they started their own political party, their third party. It was the Liberty Party. Then they started the Free Soil Party. Then they started, and I gotta preface this, it's a party that's way different from what it is now, but now it was an anti-abolitionist party and it was the Republican Party. And at that time when they started trying to start all those parties, people said, oh y'all, I don't know what you're doing. Third parties don't have enough power. What are you thinking? But that didn't stop them. And on the one hand, when slavery was abolished, the Republican Party was in charge, was the third party at that time. On the other hand, and this is just as important, maybe even more important, I don't know about y'all, but when I was in school, they said that Lincoln freed the slaves. Did y'all hear that? False. As a matter of fact, there is documentation between Lincoln and Grant that says if 200,000 black people did not take up arms and join the struggle, the Civil War, that the South would have won. Come on. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest general strikes that ever happened in this country was at the same time when black people, oppressed people said, no, we're not going to work anymore for free. And they left in swarms, they left the plantations. And that completely weakened and crippled the South and led to the North's victory. So, in closing, now we see we have two ways to fight. Peace and Freedom Party in the ballot, and that energy is going to spill over no matter what happens June 2nd, no matter what happens in November. And we also have the Party for Socialism, I gotta say this right, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. We got that party to continue the struggle and the fight in between election cycles. Y'all down with that? Yes. So this is not complicated. By a permanent tax on the billionaires, we will make sure that all of us have guaranteed housing, healthcare, education, dignified retirement, jobs for all of us in California, and we're going to stick together and we're going to fight together in multiracial unity to get that, and we will build a California for us people and not the billionaires. Thank you, y'all.